Hello and welcome to Cupcake Addiction, where today I'm going to be sharing my version of a new trend that's been rocking the sweet world, the milk and cookie shot. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make an Oreo milk and cookie shot complete with a white chocolate spoon and a completely edible Oreo cookie saucer. If you love this recipe, make sure you give it a share on your social media or add it to your favorites so it's always there when you feel like an Oreo cookie shot. The things that you'll need for your Oreo shots. I've got a plain baking tray and I've just lined that with a bit of wax or greaseproof paper. I'm using an IKEA cupcake tray. These are a little bit taller and skinnier than a regular cupcake tray, but you can also use something like a popover mould or a dariole mould. Of course, you can use a regular cupcake tray, but these ones are a little bit kind of taller and skinnier and give you more of that cup effect. This is a bit optional, but I've got a spoon chocolate mould. This is the silicone one, and that's going to be used to make our little white chocolate spoons today. I've got a rolling pin, some non-stick spray, an offset spatula or a sharp knife. I've got a spoon. I'm using just some small pieces of wax paper or greaseproof paper. Over here I've got a third of a batch of our Oreo cookie dough. So I will link to the Oreo cookie dough recipe in the description box below. That was our last video to come out. And I just like to work with this in these little third batches because they're really easy to use and they stay nice and chilled. I've got some melted dark chocolate, melted white chocolate, some mini Oreos just for decoration. I've got 2 circle cutters. I will leave dimensions of those in the description box below. Some plain flour, some crushed Oreo cookies, and some uncooked rice. I've also got some whipped cream in the fridge for garnishing my shots today. So let's get started. Now your dough should be straight out of the fridge and it should have been resting in there for at least an hour, so it's going to be quite firm. Start off by giving it just a really quick knead, about 30 seconds to a minute, and then sprinkle down a generous amount of your flour before pressing the dough out and then rolling it. You want it quite thin, a couple of millimeters is perfect. Once your dough's all rolled out, take your cupcake tray and give it a really generous spray with that non-stick spray. You want to make sure you give it a really good coating, particularly in the bottoms and the corners. You'll see my circle cutter. I've actually picked one that's almost identically sized to the bottom of my tray. So now I'm just going to cut out those little rounds and they're going to form kind of the base of our cookie cup. Using either a knife or my spatula now, I'm just cutting out a really rough rectangle shape, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Place your rectangle non-floured side facing out into your cupcake tray and press it down with your fingers. You want to make sure it's coming up, extending past the lip of your cupcake tray. If you've got any little spaces because your rectangle wasn't quite long enough, just use some of those offcuts, fill it in and really press them in nice and tight with your fingers. Take a knife or your offset spatula and just use it just to trim away the excess, and that gives you that really nice neat lip or edge to your little cookie cup. Repeat that process till your pan is full, making sure that you're really getting your fingers in there and pushing that side wall down so it's connecting with your little cookie shot base. For your cookie sauces, you want to take your second third of dough out of the fridge and once again give it a quick knead and then roll it out nice and thin. And then taking your larger circle cutter, you're just going to cut out some straight circles. Pick them up gently, place them onto your baking tray, and then you want to take your smaller circle cutter here. Now with the smaller circle cutter, you're actually going to use kind of the fatter edge rather than the sharp cutting surface, and then you just want to press it down, making sure you don't go all the way through the cookie dough, just enough to make the imprint of kind of that little ring in the middle of a saucer that holds the cup. Pop them off into a preheated moderate oven, about 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now back to our shots. I'm choosing to blind bake, so this is where our wax paper comes in. I just twisted it, and as I'm twisted it, I'm kind of gathering it together so that it forms like a little cup, and then pushing it down into my little cookie shot. I chose to blind bake because it just helps to keep the sturdy form and shape of your cookie shots a little bit better. You don't have to, but you may have some of the sides slide down a little bit. Fill those little wax paper cups with some of that dry rice, and I always have some rice on hand for blind baking, and then we're going to pop those off into the oven. I'm going to cook those for 10 minutes in the oven, full of that rice and that wax paper, and then we're going to pull them out of the oven, remove the wax paper, and we're going to bake them off for a further 5 minutes. So after that first 10 minutes, your cookie shots should come out. You just want to really gently remove that wax paper and be careful not to spill the rice back into your cookie shots at all. Once all of your wax paper's out, pop them back into the oven for a further 5 minutes to allow those bases to completely bake. So your sauces should now be cooked, and I've grabbed just a cup or something that's got a base on it about the same size as the saucer mold. While these are still really hot, these are just out of the oven, I'm just pushing the base of that cup into the little circle shape that we made. This is actually going to provide the really nice indent of your saucer. It's going to hold your Oreo shot in place, and it's going to make your sauces look more authentic. Once you've allowed those sauces to completely dry, you want to take that melted dark chocolate, and I'm just spooning it on and spreading it out so that it goes to all of the edges of my little saucer. And then you'll see I've got kind of like a little chocolate drip tray here. So you want to give it a couple of really hefty shakes, which is going to smooth the chocolate out, it's going to drain off any excess, and it's going to force it down into that little center mold. Use your finger just to rim around the edges to make it really, really nice and neat, and it kind of makes your sauces shiny and clean like actual crockery. Once your cookie shots have completed baking, let them sit in their tray for 5 minutes before trying to pull them out. So these are still quite warm, but letting them sit just allows them to sweat a little bit and makes them easier to remove. You can see I'm just gently placing my thumb in and I'm just pulling them out. They are sliding out really, really easily. With everything out now and cooled, I'm going to quickly show you how to make those spoons. So a spoon mold is not something that everyone is going to have, but it is a fairly commonly available chocolate mold. I'm just drizzling in some of that melted white chocolate, being careful not to get too much of it up around the outside edges of the mold. And then we're going to make sure that we give it a couple of really, really good taps on the bench, and that's just going to force that chocolate right down into all the grooves of the spoons. Pop those off into the fridge, let them set, and your white chocolate spoons are done. Now, it's important here that you line your cookie shots, or else that milk is going to soak into the cookie and it's all going to seep out onto the bench and make a huge mess. So 2 teaspoons of white chocolate straight into the bottom of that cookie shot, and then you just want to turn it. You want that white chocolate to completely coat the inside, and I also made sure that mine came all the way up over the outer lip of my cookie shot glass. Make sure that you're shaking out as much of the excess as you can while still being sure that the entire inside is covered. If you happen to see any cookie poking through that white chocolate, cover it up with a tiny little bit more white chocolate because that's where your cookie shot's going to leak. While that white chocolate's still fresh and wet, just flatten down your Oreo crumbs in that bowl and just dip the very, very top of your cookie shot in so you get all of those beautiful Oreo crumbs kind of around the rim and around the edge. Make sure you repeat this process with all of your Oreo cookie shots, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to make sure that inside is completely coated so that they are watertight. When your spoons come out of the fridge all nice and set, it's as simple as popping them out. Look how cute they are. If you just run your fingers down the side of them, you'll just be able to knock off any little excess or messy ridges on your spoons. Pop those off onto your little cookie saucers. To fill your Oreo shots, it is as simple as taking a little bit of milk. You can also make an Oreo milkshake here. And I'm going to finish mine off, like I said, with a little bit of canned whipped cream. I did a bit of a test on our Oreo cookie shots to see how long they would remain watertight for. This display one that I've got in the corner of the screen has been like that for about 4 hours, so I am happy that they are completely watertight and they're not going to leak. A little bit of that whipped cream on top, a sprinkling of crushed Oreos to decorate. There you've got a fully edible saucer, a delicious white chocolate spoon, and a stunningly decadent Oreo cookie shot. I hope you guys have loved this idea. I hope you've loved my take on this new sweet trend phenomenon. If you love it, make sure you share it so others can enjoy it as well. And as always, thanks very much for tuning in to My Cupcake Addiction.